Came over right on time. We'll just call and let him know we'll be there in a few minutes. In that case, I'll go touch up my makeup a little more, okay? We got through it that night. We'll get through this together. Rudy's voice answered, "Well, Dane, I thought you weren't going to make it out tonight." "Well, a good friend of Jeanette's came over and it appears she's dying to see you." "Louise, right? Is she still there? May I talk to her?" "It's Lucille. No, you can't without us present." "Jeanette, you're an us now. I think you'll thank me for that later, so how does it feel?" Or should I ask, how does it feel? As furious as Dane also was, he couldn't let Jeanette grab the phone. The argument it would turn into would become another thing her friend didn't need to see or hear. So he quickly but firmly said, "We'll meet you at Dizzgo's soon. Bye," before he hung up. "Why did you do that?" Jeanette was about to ask when Lucille entered the room as a sort of answer to her question. "I'm Drake, Rudy's nephew." "I noticed you've not really made eye contact with Rudy. Did something happen?" "It was so stupid. Can you believe I got this dressed up and everything, and he sent his nephew to pick me up? He didn't have the decency to tell me beforehand. Drake just showed up at my door instead of him, so the whole way there I was left to wonder who his date was." If you're about to say his date was... no, Tessa. His date was you. I thought it was me, but I was sorely mistaken. Tessa, he actually does have feelings for you. The more he loves someone, the more freaked out he gets about how he feels. He's afraid of you because he crossed the line with someone, and it wasn't you. And even though it wasn't about love, it's like he cheated on you. I know you're not dating, but maybe he's waiting for you to show him how you feel first, because he's afraid you'll get rejected. He's not any good at taking lead. Jeanette, I know there's a reason you won't look me in the eye, and it's killing me that you're withholding something from me. I wish I could have prevented it. Just know that. I was avoiding him, and he came to my house. He met that girl you saw in there, Lucille, and he started flirting with her. It doesn't mean anything. I know it doesn't. It just upsets me because she's my friend, and that's the whole reason he did that. He wanted to hurt me. I knew this would happen. He got too jealous because his plans really were working to bring you and Dane together. About that, Dane's father was my mother's stepbrother. About that, you seem suspiciously synchronized. Just be careful that you don't broadcast that you're together now, which, by the way, was obvious when I first saw you tonight to everyone. There's still your age to consider. I'm 18. But anyway, how obvious? You both have that look like you're planning to sneak out somehow to get alone. That, and like you wish the two of you hadn't actually left to go to the party because you could be at home right now. Another way to tell is that Rudy wouldn't act so bratty. Which is why I knew he needed to get back inside. You could be distracting him right now from all that. You still don't want to be seen with me. What gave you that idea? You invited me and I thought you were going to pick me up. You had your nephew pick me up. How does that offend you? Well, I should have brought this up a long time ago because I left something unsaid and I had no right to keep it from you because... Why now? You don't just kiss someone because you feel like it and expect that to leave some invisible bond. So you can always return crying, no matter how many others you've kissed. You have me to go to with all your troubles, and I gave up on hearing you say anything more about it because you lead me to assume all you wanted was control over me. You didn't exactly kiss me back. I wasn't expecting it, and even if I had, you're the one who withdrew. Well, Dane showed up, and I thought you... Well, that didn't stop you from kissing me then. And if you're planning on it now, I'd assume you only want to kiss me when you feel threatened. There's him. Until then, I wouldn't have even guessed you did. Well, what's stopping you now? How do I know you're not the one who's into him? I wouldn't mention it at all if I wasn't sure how I felt about you. I just had to be sure you're not still... In a flash, he recalled the reason he hadn't kissed her back that night. The most terrifying feeling was how vulnerable she made him feel. He broke away from her, tried not to look at her because he didn't want her to see him cry. He said, "Now you know what it's like." What Tessa didn't know was that Lucille witnessed the whole thing. Lucille was waiting at a table for Drake to come back from the restroom when she saw Rudy approach. "So, I saw the way Drake's been looking at you tonight. Can't blame him." "What, you do like him, don't you?" "I don't know yet." "You do. It's written all over your face. It'll be easy for me to set you up together. And if you tell Jeanette about this, be sure to tell her I won't play any games with you." Okay. Good. So I know you saw what happened just now. All I want in exchange for setting you and Drake up with each other is this. I've turned away everyone I've ever cared about. I'd help you regardless. You wouldn't be saying that if you knew. You see, Jeanette's on that list too. I do see that, but I'm sure whatever you've done, she'd forgive you for. Don't be so sure about that. This is the only way. I'll help you. You don't know how much it means to me. Thank you. So what did you and Rudy's girlfriend talk about? I wasn't expecting that. I thought you set them up with each other because the two of you were talking so long. And they were kissing. You saw them kiss? I'm not sure how to tell you this, but there's something I've been hiding from you for a while. Remember that night Rudy came to visit saying he was looking for Dane? Rudy wasn't really at the house looking for Dane that day. He was looking for me. I had met him a few months ago, and he picked up on the signs that I liked Dane instantly. One day he was visiting Dane, and just before he left, he waited around until I went outside to speak to me in private. That's when he told me he could help set me up with Dane. I didn't really trust him, so I was hesitant at first, but after a while I would go places with him, on little dates, where he would tell me how certain he was that Dane was into me, and that it wouldn't be long before he would come to me. Rudy claimed all I had to do was make Dane worry about where I was late at night. Then he hired his best friend Tessa to give me some sort of makeover. When I spent time with her, she tried to warn me that Rudy can be difficult to get close to, thinking that I was falling in love with him. Tessa herself had been in love with him for years and couldn't let him know because she'd always assumed he'd reject her. Did you fall in love with him? I fell into something with him, but it wasn't exactly love. What did he do to you? How do you know what? I'll have to tell you later. I have to go. Whatever he did, if it's too painful for you to tell me right now, you don't have to give me an answer. We tell each other everything like sisters. Or we used to. You can tell me anything going on in your mind. I'm right there with you. Your pain becomes mine. And you have someone now to be happy with, and I'm happy for you that you found that in Dane, but don't let those painful memories hide. When you're ready, let it all out. Just tell me. We'll cry it out together, okay? Thank you. For the rest of the day, Lucille kept asking herself whether or not she was doing the right thing by allowing herself to become peacemaker for Rudy and everyone he'd turned away. It's not my apology to give, she thought to herself. Then she thought of saying it to him the whole way home from school. However, when she dialed the number he gave on the back of the very last sheet of paper he'd handed her, and heard hope rising in his voice, as if he'd been waiting all day to hear from her, she changed her mind. Hi, is this Lucille? Yes, it is. Today I was talking to Jeanette. She told me you became friends, but she didn't say what happened between you. It was painful, I know that. Please, could you tell me what happened? I don't know how I'm supposed to help you without knowing the meaning behind it. I already know you helped set her up with Dane. Well, we did become friends. Much to my surprise, we became closer friends than I would have ever expected. It was soon clear to me that the more success she had with him, the more restless I became. Are you saying you wished you were him? I really wish I could say that. It has a nicer ring to it than the truth. Then what? Envy. It's not what you want to hear. But what I felt boiled down to the darkest... What's the form of it? Darkest green? Forest green? Picture that. It boiled down to forest green envy. In that pot, where the first envy simmered deep, hardly noticeable to any onlooker. I'm not sure I heard you. Could you repeat that? Jeanette stood over me, towering, really seeming to grow with increasing pace, flowing with love, brimming with joy. Lucille attempted to draw little pictures he was describing in order to help her remember later what he said. She had what looked like a cauldron with Rudy's name labeled on it, and little heat bubbles with an arrow pointing to them with the words Forest Green Envy. Next to it, an exaggeratedly large stick-figured Jeanette with hearts floating around her head. All the while, she could look down with disdain or complete indifference to my situation. She'd gotten so close that of course she's the only one who could even see it. Lucille added chains around the legs of Cauldron Rudy and asked, "Wait a sec, so the situation being that you were envious of how happy she was, or envious of the very notion of her ability to be happy without you?" Envious that she was happy, and envious of her that she could share that happiness with Dane. And not me. It was out of your control. Exactly how I felt. No, I meant it wasn't in your power to do anything to prevent what she'd only find a way to do even without you. She was in love, and she was driven by it. You, on the other hand, were you driven by hatred? You were driven by hatred to do what exactly? I was driven by jealousy, self-loathing. Her purity was blinding, her best quality, and the thing I knew Dane would love most about her. She was already surpassing me by representing all I lack. The only way she could further rub it in my face would be for her to gain that total prize, which I knew fate was giving her without any of my help. Needed. Dane. Lucille quickly added a trophy to the hand that stick-figure Jeanette wasn't holding her binoculars in. Binoculars aimed below at Cauldron Rudy. You did something in an attempt to ruin her in Dane's eyes. It didn't work, so you think you lost, and she won. What did you think you were going to gain from it? I thought I would gain the chance to walk out of their lives forever, to live without ever having to hear from either of them again. You wanted to wipe them out of your existence forever, or did you want it the other way around? I wanted an escape. I just wanted to forget them. I couldn't forget them. I couldn't erase what I'd done to them. It would always come back to me, no matter what I did to try and think about anything else. They never deserved what I did, and I never deserved to have them in my life. When you gave me that list, you wrote on it, let me find it. Okay, here's what you wrote. I've come to you because I've messed up, hurting everyone I love. I completely understand why they aren't communicating with me anymore. I can't even live with myself. I went too far. If you say you'll help me, all I ask is that you call my number, included at the end of this, and I'll tell you then, when I'm able to think much more clearly, what I want to say to them each, individually in apology letters, in your handwriting, so they won't see my name and dump them before they've even read a line of it. Of course, at the time I thought you were afraid to face them because you were so sincerely sick at yourself with what you've done, and that you were choking on guilt. Now that you've told me all this, though, I'm beginning to see it differently. You aren't afraid of a negative response. You're not really worried that they might block you out. You're too stubborn to admit to them in person you're sorry, and you think you have to trick them to get them to listen to you or read your words. The reality of the situation is that you've been tricking yourself, because what you're really afraid of is that pride will get in the way of the apology. You've painted yourself in a bad light. If you plan on apologizing to them while you're in this state of mind, it still pushes them away. Show me sincerity, because even in my writing, I'm only a vessel for your message. Your message is loaded with contempt and bitterness. Pride can't coincide with guilt. It's one or the other. I'm not proud of what I've done. Nothing I previously thought I knew or understood about myself was correct. Jeanette is the first person I want to address. All the contempt you hear in my voice, every bit of bitterness, it was within me. I gave it room to grow, but it was always there because I denied it. My heart was not only the right environment for it, it was perfect because it was meant to be contained. It lived within me because, you see, we can't both live. It had to devour me. I'm the only one I should despise, because the only one who deserves my wrath. I always hated myself because friendship was never satisfying enough for me. When I was a kid, I moved around a lot. It wasn't that I longed to be accepted, I just longed for company. Felt pathetic about it, especially when Dane and Tessa came into my life, because I thought I couldn't have them both. I couldn't choose between the two. I always assumed that if I spent time with both together, they'd leave me, because I thought I was inferior. I didn't want to lose either of them. What felt like too soon in the stages of friendship, I learned that Dane would be moving away, and although I greatly valued our time together more than ever, he became the most important person in my life. I wanted his approval for everything, and suddenly Tessa was secondary in my life to him, and this is not an excuse, but even though I was beginning to have feelings, I was afraid that if there was ever a chance that we'd be together, it would risk my friendship with Dane. I showed favoritism and almost ruined what I had left with Tessa. She kissed me one night, and I've told myself for years that I was just too in shock to respond to it. The truth is that I responded that very night with my non-response. I never fully understood why she stuck around after that, but now, I may have chased her off permanently. You're kidding. I saw the look on her face after you kissed her. You made her night. She'll be back. You're judging by what you saw. You don't know what I was saying to her. I'm sure she knows you enough to handle whatever you were saying to her, because the look on her face said it all. You'd not lost her. Now tell me, what do you want me to write for you in your letters? Jeanette, it feels like you're somewhere else. What's on your mind? Your eyes aren't swollen from pollen, are they? I can't hide anything from you, can I? Last night, I forgot to tell you, when Rudy left, he passed me so drowned in his thoughts, he didn't look up or acknowledge when I said goodnight. I would have understood if he were just avoiding me. There's more to it than that. Something's going on with him. Maybe the shame of what he's done is starting to eat him. It serves him right. He was like that when he came out past me the night he... You know. There's something I never told you. About something that happened long before that night. He'd taken me to dinner. He was flirting, getting more devious with it, so by the time we left, I was terrified that he really would, When he realized the effect his words had on me, he reassured me that he would never follow through. He promised me that he would never, because he wouldn't want to risk one or the other friendship over it. Don't you see? We're just giving him what he wants. He knew better. Exactly, he did know better. He broke a promise he knew he had no right to make in the first place. The decision shouldn't have been his to make. The only accurate thing he told me that night is that he knew you had infiltrated my mind to the point nothing he could have done would make me his. Can't argue with that. Had to have you somehow. Something's still bothering you. I think I know now why he did what he did. He knew you'd come to my aid. He was waiting for you to come home, not just because it would be too late for you to do anything about it. This wasn't just out of hatred, because he actually brought us together. Do you miss him? I just want to know what he's really doing. I hope that doesn't bother you. After all, you wanted that night for me to tell you that I had to hear you say that what you had going with him was over. I didn't mean that I wanted to know that you weren't going to continue being his friend. I wouldn't deprive you of your friendships ever. After all, I think you're right. He chose to be out of our lives, even though it's the last thing he wants. But forgiving him doesn't mean you have to forget what he did, and could try to do again. He'll never succeed again, because as long as he's around, I won't let you out of my sight for a moment. Hey, Drake. I was wondering if you could do something to help me out. Dane invited me to hang out with him this weekend for Jeanette's 18th birthday party, but I won't be able to make it, so I was wondering if you could go in my place and give her the present. It's not party crashing because you're going instead of me, and I'm sure they'll be happy to see you. Especially that girl. Jeanette's friend? Yeah, that's the one. I saw a light in her eyes when she looked at you. Yeah, I'm sure. She was smitten the moment she met you. She was. It'll be Friday. It's 7. Do you remember how you got to Jeanette's house to drop her off that night? Okay, one moment. When the call ended, he smiled for the first time that day. The day preceding Jeanette's party, Lucille and Jeanette were having a sleepover, and Jeanette's phone rang. As Jeanette went out of the room to take the call, the doorbell rang. She silently answered Lucille's questioning expression with a nod of consent as they passed. Lucille answered the door and laughed when she saw it was Drake. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just surprised to see you here. My uncle couldn't make it today, so he asked if I'd take his place at the party for him. The party is tomorrow, but come in. Jeanette walked into the room, and upon seeing them, she carefully stepped backwards and ducked into Dane's room before they'd look up and see her. Dane gave her a quizzical look when she slowly closed the door behind her, and she smiled and put a finger to her lips, advancing slowly. You still have a visitor. Our visitor has a visitor. Are you saying her mom came and took her home? No. Drake's here. I came in because I didn't want to startle them. I also wanted to tell you about my call just now. Was it him? No, I still haven't heard from Rudy. You? No. Who was it? Tessa. She thinks she'll be able to come, but she doesn't know if she'll be able to stay for very long. And we both know what that depends on. Tell me what's bothering you. Would you stop if your mom asked? Stop what? Stop seeing me. Stop being with me. It's not her decision to make, and I wouldn't have ever started if I ever thought we'd stop. Tomorrow, now that I have mentioned it, now that it has crossed your mind, you could leave me. There's no reason to leave you. I'm not looking for one. The only approval of our relationship that matters to me is yours. I know you're scared of how tomorrow will go, but don't be. You'll still have me through it all. You should have seen the way Lucille handed this to me. I can't open it without you. I have a weirdly ominous feeling. It's probably nothing to worry about, but if it would make you feel better, you can close your eyes and I'll preview it for you. There are 2 separate letters folded in here, and I can tell you already, your friend Lucille wrote this, but she's not the one addressing us. What are you saying? Look for yourself. Here's the one addressed to you. Oh gosh! Dear Jeanette, I'm about to do something I never do. I'm admitting to you all that's been on my mind since I hurt you and Dane. This isn't an excuse. This is an admission of guilt. Lucille was very kind in helping me through this. Please hear me out. I know what I did to you was unacceptable. I didn't know what I was missing before you came into my life, and what I've done now haunts me every night. Before we met, I thought keeping all my secrets to myself was what I needed in life to maintain any relationships. When I started to know you, it was terrifying how willing you were to open up to me, because all the truth I found in you only magnified all I lacked. There was a power in your innocence, in your modesty of the power you had, and I took advantage of the power I thought I had every time you followed what I said. And you were so patient with me, even though I was always so indecisive about my ideas. I clung to my pride and couldn't accept the way you understood me. I was too proud to ever let you teach me anything, and you set me right, revealed to me all I was denying, lying just under the surface. The thought of you and Dane together formed in my mind the most patronizing reminder of all I considered impossible for me to ever find. You showed me a way I could find the end to my loneliness. I secretly hated how easy it seemed to be for you. I loathed myself for all I thought I could never be. I believed I'd be alone if I couldn't have either of you. I didn't want to share him with you or you with him, but being selfishly envious, not letting the two of you be happy, I forfeited any chance to share in your happiness. You can't share what you don't have. And it was never my place to begin with. I also resented myself for not noticing as readily as you did the moment I introduced you to Tessa what I was too much of a coward to realize I had. I was as much a coward with her as I've been a jerk to you. If it weren't for you, I don't know how much longer it would have taken me to realize how long I've taken her companionship for granted. You're the truest friend I've met since her and Dane, who's lucky to have you, have come into my life. You brought about so many changes in a way of seeing the world. You brought back the hope I lost so long ago that I didn't even recall where or when I lost it. Even if you never forgive me, I just want to know that you know that I promise never to lie again. I promise to have an open heart. I will never break another promise again. You and Dane are my heroes. I love you. Love, Rudy, Romance King. Jeanette finally looked up from her letter with a smile on her face, tears in her eyes. As she wiped them away, she saw that Dane was still reading his letter. Dear Dane, reading this letter now, just know that the girl you have no doubt sitting beside you, or standing beside you, at this very moment has taught me so many invaluable lessons in the short time I've known her, and has never deserved a speck of my harsh judgment or snide remarks I've made to you about her, and neither of you. Now, before I start sharing any more memories that only you and I know in her best friend's handwriting, know that Lucille was sweet enough to agree to write this out for me. Otherwise, I believe you might have seen my name on it and ripped it to shreds, and I totally get that if you decide to. You have every right to. You don't even have to trust me again. Just your love passed the test. This is no excuse for my misdemeanor, but the odds were against you, and you still made it. She's yours, and I guess will always be. I regret what I did every day. I'm hoping that one day you'll leave it in the past, even if that doesn't mean you trust me. I understand fully if you never trust me again. You're lucky to have each other, and I mean this in the best way. You couldn't ask for better. She's your soulmate. Congratulations. If you ever forgive me, I will try to make it up to you, if at all possible. If you never talk to me again, I understand that too. Just say the word, and I'll be there for you two anytime. Love you both. I am so sorry for all the hardships and trouble I've caused. Love, Rudy. He's right, you know. I couldn't ask for more. It's good that he recognizes the fact that I can't trust him with you. Do you forgive him? That doesn't mean letting someone do the same thing to you again. I do accept his apology. but it will be a while for the damage to be repaired. But I'm safe. As long as you're with me. I need to go find Lucille and thank her. This letter is for Tessa, but she's gone now. To Rudy's, I'm sure. Don't worry, there shouldn't be anything in there that he can't tell her when he sees her, unless he confesses to her something that isn't hers to know. I still don't know what he did to you, but he did go further beyond his confession of love. He tells her about what he did, that he couldn't handle her acceptance of him before she even knew what she was getting herself into. So he writes about a darker side she's never seen, and that he did something awful to you, and he wants to push her away now too? He just paints himself in a terrible light with it, but he does it claiming that he wouldn't want her to know if he didn't love her. No, Tessa, she knows everything about him. He would only rub it in to try and dissuade her. But why? I thought he loved her. If he finds out she left the party early to see him, he'll ignore her, thinking she's angry with him. And if he doesn't want to push her away, oh gosh, we have to. I have an idea. Promise I'll explain this later, but we need to get to Rudy's house, so would you agree to taking us and saying we're just going to get ice cream? Hi. Wait, you're not going to push me away this time. Is it really you? Of course it's me. Tessa. Please excuse my clumsiness. I've not been able to rest in a while. After Tessa excused herself to the restroom, Rudy heard his phone ring. He was about to say hello, and the realization hit him that with the sound of the voice on the other end and what she said, Rudy, I forgive you. It left him speechless but alert, and he dropped the phone. Afraid it was a setup, but too happy to hear from her to know that it was, he soundlessly opened the door. When he saw her standing there, waiting for him, he almost shrieked with a flood of joy. Jeanette's eyes were filling with tears, but she smiled as she announced, "The letter you wrote Tessa? Dane is my witness that nobody has opened it, but Rudy, nobody ever needs to." Tessa doesn't need a way out. She only wants you. Don't show her the door, so before she sees us, she'll never have to know what's in this letter. Can I take it off your hands? Rudy hugged Jeanette. Both started crying. I don't know what to say right now. I love you both.